Good day, everyone. Before we start our presentation today, our team would like to ask you, how many of you have watched movies or TV shows on Netflix? I'm sure many of you have nodded your heads in agreement, but how many of you are aware of how Netflix is at the position it is today? To better understand that, our group consisting of myself, Alaysa, Sanjana, and Zorawa are going to speak about Netflix and how this huge conglomerate built its foundation and achieved its success. We will accomplish this by looking meticulously into the few approaches that Netflix has instilled in their organization culture and structure. We will also be looking at and understanding the various approaches that can be used to get a deeper understanding of Netflix. The structure of our presentation will include the introduction, followed by the various approaches utilized, and then finally the conclusion. With that, I would like to jump straight into the first segment. I'm sure most, if not all of you have a Netflix account or are using one of the accounts that is being paid for by someone else. It's okay, I'm sure we have all done that. But now, I would like to pass over the time to Sanjana to briefly go over the introduction of Netflix.
Thank you, Eliza. So, Netflix started off as a media streaming and video rental company that was founded in 1997 by American entrepreneurs named Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph. However, the company was also involved in the creation of original programming. It was in 1999 that Netflix began to offer an online subscription service through the internet where the consumers chose from what was back then a plethora of movies and television titles from the company's website. At this time, the shows were actually mailed to the consumers in the form of DVDs along with a prepaid return envelope. Can you imagine that? From their first turning point in 2006, where they found an algorithm to improve the recommendation system, to the present day, where they now have a consumer base of well over 200 million subscribers, Netflix is now available in over 190 countries worldwide, with their content still expanding, making them one of the biggest subscription based streaming platforms in the world. Now, that is a pretty impressive feat. As mentioned by Netflix, their goal is to entertain the world, and they claim to be the world's biggest fans of entertainment who are always looking for ways to help people find their next favorite story. Next slide, please. In the present day shows, there is a phenomena that is widely observed called the Netflix effect, where Forbes defines this as an effect where a new series catapults an unknown actor to fame overnight as a result of millions of people binge watching a show. Lastly, Netflix holds a reputed image for being a storehouse of content, what with a variety of shows in various genres that it streams, and their biggest advantage in this aspect is the fact that subscribers can watch any content with convenience from anywhere they like. So, without any further ado, we would now like to take you over to the organizational structure of the company. Zoe will be presenting the first form of the organizational structure, which is excellent cultures.
Thank you, Sanjana. With that, we will now look into an approach that links the characteristics of the organizational culture of Netflix, giving us all a better understanding of the culture that is embedded within Netflix and its workforce. I would like to start off with a brief introduction on excellent cultures, which, by attempting to find similar patterns within a successful organization, Peters and Waterman wrote In Search of Excellence in 1982. The main agenda was to identify aspects of organizational culture that were prevalent in high performing companies. With that, I would like to transition forward with the first theme that aptly exemplifies Netflix as an excellent organization, and that is the theme of autonomy and entrepreneurship. The organizational style that has been taken up on Netflix is perceived as unusual looking, especially with regard to how the employees in the organization are encouraged to behave in the workplace. As stated by Nordback in 2017, the aim of the corporate culture in Netflix is used to bolster resilience among the employees as a way to support the growth in an increasingly competitive, on-demand digital streaming industry. This fits well into the theme of autonomy and entrepreneurship. The next theme that I will be looking into is the theme of simple form lean staff. This theme looks into the organizational structure that avoid complex structure and division of labor. This might be ironical as it can't really be applied to a huge company like Netflix with so many moving parts. However, Netflix emphasizes communicative effectiveness throughout the organization. As an online business that depends on innovative ideas and data pertaining to the market and consumer needs, the company utilizes its organizational culture to support the effective and efficient dissemination of information to guide decisions and management initiatives. As stated by Mondal in 2017, this type of structure ensures that the company fulfills its value proposition and keeps the competitive edge that is needed for Netflix's business model. Netflix strives to use the corporate culture to maintain a framework of core values, beliefs, and business philosophy that permeate throughout the workforce and motivates the employees to support and create innovative ideas for the growth of the business. The third and final theme I like to talk about is close relations to the customers. Netflix organizational culture addresses some of the challenges in the industry environment, such as innovation and the alignment their work of their work goals between the entertainment industry and target consumer preferences. The employees are motivated and supported by this work culture of the company to achieve their work objective, allowing for flexibility in their area of expertise. This in turn allows them to better adjust to the needs of the customers and keep up with the latest trends. Now I'll move on to the second approach that I would like to talk about, and that is the four flows of communication. Before that, I'd like to talk about the main agenda of four flow scholars, and that is to consider the communication flows as they intersect and constitute organizations. This approach can now be applied to better understand the functioning of Netflix. I would first like to start with the first flow, which is self structuring, as it considers processes that serve to design the organization, provide guidance about resource allocation, institute policies and procedures, and create rules about work that is accomplished. To better understand this, we will look at Netflix as it was in 2006, a comparatively tiny company with mounting losses and an uncertain future, whereas Blockbuster, on the other hand, was, in the true word, blockbuster. With revenues over 5 billion in 2000 and 800 million collected in late fees alone, Blockbuster was at its pinnacle of success. Today, however, Netflix is worth more than 60 billion, whereas Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy in 2010. So, why this paradigm change? This is due to Netflix focusing on optimizing its structure and focusing on the process by which its content was delivered to the customers. This allowed them to build a competitive edge all over the competition. Now, the second flow that I'll be focusing on is activity coordination. A company like Netflix, which uses a plethora of departments, needs to instill a sense of interdependence in their corporate structure. This can be better understood by one of the four flows, activity coordination. Activity coordination mainly refers to the ongoing interaction that is required to complete a given task in an organization. As stated by Kettner and Oliveira in 2020, this flow emphasizes interdependence where various parts in the organization depend on each other to accomplish things and must communicate and collaborate with each other. The Netflix company culture is one where rules are minimized in order to attract creativity. Therefore, mutual adjustment, not standardization, plays a key role in the organizational structure, and this leads to low levels of formalization. I will now pass my time to Eliza, who will speak about Montreal School approach. Thank you.
Thanks, Zoe. Now I'll be talking about the Montreal School of Communicative Constitution of Organization. The Montreal School of CCO examines the organization through conversation and text that happens within the organization. More specifically, it examines the organizing itself rather than the organization. First, we'll take a look at the conversation and text of Netflix. The structure of Netflix can tell us about the communication that happens in a workplace, which in turn tells us a lot about how the management is as an organization. The conversation and text within Netflix announced Netflix to be viewed as an emergent streaming industry that has adapted a language for talking about the uncertainty associated with the digital transition, as stated by Burroughs in 2018. This shows that conversation and text is crucial in trying to understand the communication and structure in Netflix. Secondly, the Montreal School of CCO examines communication within an organization through the 6 degrees of separation. To further understand the organizing and communication that's taking place in Netflix, we'll look at the 2nd degree of separation. The 2nd degree of separation states that a conversation is given a narrative representation. As Cook researched in 2021, there are over 1,500 original titles in Netflix. Some examples are Okja and Black Mirror. These titles reflect the conversation happening in Netflix, such as the topic on animal rights, the environment, and the dark side of technology. Not only that, there are also many more conversation that is held in Netflix. Thirdly, the 6th degree of separation. The 6th degree of separation states that the standardization form is disseminated to a broader public. In this case, the standardization form refers to the interactive experience with the audience. Subscribers can customize their homepage by choosing what they would like to watch and what they would not like to watch. Having a powerful recommendation system that leads to the personalization of the Netflix experience, as said by Amartya in 2013, can be seen for the 6th degree of separation. Lastly, the ripple effect. Did you know that after the Queen's Gambit came out, the inquiries for how to play chess has hit an all-time high in 9 years, and the inquiries for chess set are up to 250% on eBay? Yeah, that's the Netflix effects. The text of Netflix sparks and influences other conversations, and this helps the process of cultural transformation that has direct consequences on the use of the media, as said by Hidalgo in 2021. Now, we'll be taking a look at how Netflix mitigate conflicts. But before we get into that, I would like to say what are the 5 main conflict management styles. The first style is competing, followed by collaborating, compromising, avoiding, and lastly, accommodating. So how does Netflix manage their conflict with other streaming platforms? Well, they use a collaborative management style. The collaborative management style uses a combination of being both assertive and cooperative, such that those who collaborate attempt to work with others to identify a solution that fully satisfies everyone concerned. Have you ever had the experience where you go to another country and you're not able to stream whatever show you want, but you were able to do that in your home country? Well, that is because to avoid conflict with their studio partners, Netflix filters what you can see when you travel to another country, as said by Rosenberg in 2021. This allows Netflix to be a global streaming platform, but still avoid conflict with different countries. Next, however, they use a different kind of style when they try to mitigate conflict with their customers. They use an accommodative management style. Netflix's application of this management style with its customers shows that it wants to maintain a good relationship so that customers will continue their subscription. At the same time, it helps with the branding of Netflix, as Netflix wants to portray the brand as a humorous and relatable peer, as said by Hendricks and Castro in 2021. Now, I will pass on the time to Sanjana to talk about the unitary organization structure and the conclusion.
Thank you, Eliza. Next slide, please. Having seen that Netflix has a hierarchical organizational structure, what needs to be taken into consideration is the fact that this same structure has some modifications that elucidate its business flexibility and responsiveness to changes in the global market. This paves way for Netflix to continuously evolve in order for them to be able to offer original entertainment content as well as on-demand media streaming services that attract not only its target customers but also prospective customers from all around the world. Next slide, please. The corporate culture of Netflix allows it to keep its corporate headquarters up to date with all operational concerns that require changes in strategic management directions. As stated by McCord in 2019, there is a hierarchy that this kind of a structure brings along with it that helps Netflix maintain executive control and direction throughout the company. But when one takes a deeper look at it, one can see that this corporate structure is relatively flat in comparison to many other companies that have a similar hierarchical organizational structure. Next slide, please. In the case of Netflix, all the main business executives directly report to the top management of the company, in this case, the CEO. In this regard, an important characteristic that is to be taken note is the corporate structure of Netflix, where the functional groups are meant for online and offline operations. As stated by Anders in 2019, the functional groups in Netflix are called talent, and this forms the basis of the company's hierarchical system. And as stated by Zoo 2021, the key indicator in this regard is whether a highly matched and future oriented team can be established. Now, due to the minimized managerial levels at Netflix, the organizational structure is relatively flat, as we established earlier, which makes Netflix promptly responsive to changes in the entertainment industry. Moreover, this is comparable to their corporate culture, which promotes and encourages open communication as well as cooperation. Next slide, please. All in all, we've come to see that Netflix has been extremely successful in maturing and advancing to adapt to the ever-changing needs of consumers over the years. Initially, while they were able to remain successful against their biggest competitor at the time, as Zorawar mentioned, Blockbuster, with the rise in popularity of internet streaming, it only meant that they had to evolve, adapt, and successfully adjust to this kind of a pattern. The reason we use Blockbuster as a comparison is because while Blockbuster did not modify and foresee the impact the internet would have had on the movie rental industry, Netflix foresaw this and did exactly the opposite, as stated by Kelmary. Today, Netflix is one of the biggest competitors in the international media streaming market. Strategically, it uses its corporate culture to better optimize human resource competencies and emphasizes on employee autonomy, communication, productivity, rule avoidance, and overall attitude to create such a state of affairs where employees are motivated to take risks and deliver innovative ideas that largely contribute to the competitive advantage of the online company. It is this kind of an organizational structure that makes human resources at Netflix extremely flexible in nature and so ready to respond to the challenges in the ever-changing media industry. Next slide, please. Now, as I mentioned earlier, in the unitary form of corporate structure, the structural framework prioritizes executive control from the company's headquarters, and the way that they ensure flexibility is simply based on the flatness of their company's organizational structure. The corporate structure of Netflix greatly supports a style of strategic management in areas of content distribution as well as content production, which only goes to show that the company has evolved over the years to better adjust and better adapt to the concept of original programming. With the ever increase in their original content production sector, there is also a substantial increase in the substance and magnitude of the original programming division in the corporate structure of Netflix. Next slide, please. Before we come to an end of our presentation today, we would like to quickly tell you about a concept called the Keeper Test that is used by managers in Netflix, and this concept is applied as a judgment of someone's overall expected contribution. Next slide. With that, we come to you with our discussion question today. If you, as a manager at Netflix, were informed that one of your employees was opting to leave Netflix to work elsewhere at a peer company, which of your employees would you fight for in order to keep them encouraged to stay on at Netflix? With that, we thank you for your time and attention.